The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of CNS Channel 6.
Guyana, full of resources. Undoubtedly, the potential breadbasket of the Caribbean, a country where academic excellence, standards, and foreign policy were beyond comparison in this part of the world. Today, unfortunately, the same cannot be said. Disasters are frequent. Corruption is rampant. Workers are dissatisfied. The cost of living and of basic utilities seems beyond the reach of the poor. School children are fighting for better educational facilities and system, while the suffering of the poor continues. However, the leader of the Justice for All party, C.N. Sharma, provides an opportunity for these problems to be highlighted. He traversed this country and will continue to do so to places where no other political leader goes, places where people suffer on a daily basis, places that to other leaders seems not to exist, places where the people's voices are important, a voice crying out for help, a voice that can foster change, the voice of reality, so powerful, the voice of the people.
Good day, and welcome to another edition of The Voice of the People. Today will be Saturday, September 9th, 2023, of the edition of The Voice of the People. We're so happy to have you here. Always a pleasure to have you joining us on the CNS Channel 6. Thank you for joining us. Remember, we're also live streaming on Facebook, so you can find us there as well. And it's always good to be with Mr. C.N. Sharma, the man for the people, the voice of the voiceless. And of course, we also have here with us today our dear comrade Hamilton Green, who always takes time out of his busy schedule just so that he can be here and share his vast knowledge of first-hand knowledge with us. Because, many persons can give us reported history, but it's always good when we could have someone who can give us, first-hand, who lived the history and is willing to share it with us. So thank you for being here, Comrade Green.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for opening your program and your station to give a voice to all of those who've got much to say. All right, I know one of the things that you really want us to make mention of today, that tragic event that happened not too long ago, just some hours ago, because when I came, you just told me about the earthquake. The earthquake that took place in Morocco. I would have missed that because I haven't tuned in online for the morning, but then, when I just looked it up there, I saw it's really a devastating situation, because so far, more than 1,000 lives have been lost. So once again, we have to reiterate how blessed we are in our dear land of Guyana, because we do not suffer from hurricanes, we do not suffer from earthquakes. We have a slight tremor that scares us every now and then, but I think that was a 6.8 magnitude. That's a powerful earthquake, and that would have left that city there in ruins. So Guyana is a blessed nation, whether you believe it or not. We are so blessed here in Guyana. All right, Comrade Green?
I'm ready. Well, your concern. On that note, the big tragic condition is that, yes, we're blessed with no natural disasters, and I'm sure this station would like to extend to the people of Morocco our condolences. All lives lost for us is something to worry about.
That's what we're worried about.
Our tragedy in Guyana, as Christy said, we're blessed, but if we don't make use of our natural resources, we'll be cursed. Our only disaster today is a government that seems unable to harmonize the willingness of a people to work together. And more recently, in fact, this week, the outgoing United States Ambassador Caroline Ann Lynch, in her last remark, said she was prepared to facilitate a coming together of the two major parties, the PNC and PPP, in the interests of this country.
What is it?
At the foot of the Arthur Chung Convention Center, when asked to comment on this offer, this initiative by the American ambassador, our president said that that's not on the cards. I found it unfortunate, tragic, and suggest that the president and his cabal feel that they are invested with divine authority.
Okay.
And they need not the concerns, the ideas of other people. Vincent Alexander wrote a letter before this statement saying that it is clear that the government is ignoring those who represent at least 40% of the population. And this one Ghana thing is a mere deceit, and I hope that the president and his advisors will reconsider that unfortunate remark and take on board the suggestion by the outgoing American ambassador and sit down and talk. As you know, Cien, I myself have approached the presidency through his advisors, saying that I am prepared to facilitate, as an elder, this coming together. And in my last bit of correspondence, I alluded to the idea of King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table. We sit down with the adversaries and talk and talk and talk until you find a modus vivendi to deal with these people who have come to exploit our resources. And we are not getting enough out of the God-given gifts that we have: gold, diamonds, oil, gas, timber. It seemed to me, particularly with this last Chinese landing issue, that we have more gold in this country than we anticipated.
That's true.
People are digging everywhere and finding gold. I was in the Northwest some months ago, and the old railway line between Port Kaituma and Matthews Ridge, people have used pitchforks, crude implements, destroyed the railway line, and finding gold. And I wonder where the story of the golden man who bathed himself in gold dust is not true. And as you know, your history, Sir Walter Raleigh was sent by the monarch to find this golden city. And he returned to England not finding the golden city and lost his neck. Perhaps that golden city is Guyana.
Okay.
And we must work as one people, one nation, to make a reality of this blessing that we have. History has shown, if you don't make use of the blessings God has given us, it will become a curse.
Okay.
I hope none of us will live to see that curse.
So what about the chicken? What about the chicken? Tell me about the...
Apparently, Aubrey Norton said he will not shake hands.
Oh, why not chicken?
The reason he gave, he wouldn't shake hands with those who oppress his supporters. As leader of opposition, that is his right. If I were in his position, I might have acted a little differently.
Yeah, that's right.
But that is a decision that he has taken.
Okay.
And we must respect it.
Okay.
The point is this: a lack of a handshake by the opposition leader is not sufficient grounds for the president of this country. And I wrote a letter reminding Ali, President Ali, that he's not head of the PP, he's head of state.
State.
And as such, must act as a statesman and not a fox. And if the opposition leader refused to shake his hand, that's a matter of lack of courtesy or protocol. But that will not prevent him from carrying out his duty-bound constitutional requirements of consulting. The law and the Constitution makes it very clear the President must consult with the leader of the opposition on the appointment of certain matters, and as a matter of good governance and democracy, on issues that affect the welfare of this country. And if one side refuses to shake the other side's hand, that does not remove that responsibility. And that is my position.
You know, Mr. Green, when we talk about this, what shall I say, this behavior between our head of state and our leader of our opposition, if they can't have such a simple matter resolved and sit down like mature adults who've got a lot of responsibility, how can we expect to really negotiate with the outside world as, you know, as a strong Guyana, as a strong leadership for Guyana? Because if we can't negotiate between ourselves and come to, you know, viable conclusions and do our business, our own internal affairs, if we can't manage that as well as it could be, how can we possibly expect to sit down with international affairs and get a, because the international world is looking on and they're seeing what's happening and they would not be impressed. And they would very much know if these people can't settle their matters among themselves, how could they settle anything between us? So that's not coming from a position of strength. It doesn't look good. It doesn't make the country look, you know, as a strong nation. If you've got these sorts of
What do you think?
I think Christine is right. I think that's the precise reason why the outgoing American ambassador made the offer.
Okay.
To let us sit and talk.
Yeah.
The cardinal aspect of a viable democracy, of a viable community, and of civilization is that we must be able to sit and talk. And the reason why you've had all these wars and conflicts throughout centuries is because the leaders lack the civility and good sense to sit and talk and talk and talk. If the two leaders require 2 days to talk, lock them up in a room, let them talk, and come out with some decision that is interesting. Look, we have to deal with the people who have come to harvest our oil, our gold. We are at a disadvantage, even though there's a lot of money coming in. If the two leaders agreed on an agenda to speak to Exxon and the oil giants, we'll get much more. Those people seen have come out of the old imperial colonial system of divide and rule. And if we are dividing ourselves, they don't have to promote the philosophy of divide and rule.
Makes it easy for them because we're already divided.
Easy for them. And that is the tragedy of our situation in this country.
You know, Mr. Green, you mentioned that if the two sides need to be locked in a room until they can come to a conclusion, it reminds me of the case where they have a jury, where the jury isn't allowed to leave the room until a decision is met.
Exactly.
You know, they can be there. They decide how long they want to be there because you must come to a conclusion or else you're not leaving.
Exactly.
So what did you decide? What is your decision?
My position is that Guyana is not getting enough from our natural resources. All because you have on the one hand a government that is rushing to give everything that the foreigners ask for. The foreigners ask to jump, this government asks you how high. Ignoring the reality that this country has less than 1 million people. The other thing is one raised by a very seasoned businessman this week, and a matter that I agree with completely. That is to use our resources to improve our human infrastructure. We're going ahead, madness, like bull in the china shop, building roads, bridges, canals, hospitals, schools, and not concentrating on building our human infrastructure. I don't expect the government to use the words that Burnham used. But what we need today is a massive form of national service.
Okay.
When I say massive, I mean massive. Going through to build a road from Georgetown right through to all parts of the interior,
Okay.
so that you develop skills among our young men and women. We had the agony of learning a few months ago, approved by the Minister of Works, that a contractor, one contractor, is importing 60 truck drivers here.
What? 60?
60 is documented, and he got permission. Now, what I'm saying, why construct roads at this time? The roads will remain there. We build hospitals, we don't have enough nurses and enough specialists.
Okay.
So we're bringing people in.
Yes.
And at the rate we're going, we will change the demographics of this society. So if a government has any good sense, they'll put a hold on all these infrastructure works. And you listen to the Minister of Works.
Yeah.
Every time he visits somewhere,
Yeah.
the bridges aren't being properly done, the roads aren't being properly done, the canals aren't being properly done. Because the contractors themselves,
Yes, sir.
apart from having to grease the hands of some people that superiors, don't have the skills. So that what they need to do, and as I said before, they needn't use the word national service, because any term that Burnham used to them is a no-go.
All right.
Burnham started feed, clothes, and house. They talk about food security. Same Burnham. So what I'm saying, begin a massive educational program in Georgetown and on the west coast of Beast and the quarantine where I visited recently. You have teams of young men and women turn to drugs because they're school dropouts.
Oh.
A massive, and we have the money now.
Okay. Money, plenty money.
And abundance of money.
Plenty money.
Find, if you have to bring back some of the old men. You have people like Joe Singh and McLean, I'm sure they'll be willing to help.
Yeah.
To expand that idea. Call it whatever you like. So that every young boy from the quarantine to the northwest, from the coast to the Rukmini, is trained.
Okay.
The other advantage with that scene is that if you bring those young men and women from various environments, cultures, the Hindu boy, the Muslim boy, the Rasta boy, the whatever, the Christian,
Yeah, okay.
and put them in a controlled environment
Okay.
where they learn to develop skills, learn of their country's history.
Okay.
They leave their authentic Guyanese, getting rid of all the prejudices which they harbored as a result of what their parents told them. And then the Indian boy and the African girl, vice versa, the Chinese, the Douglas, will all realize that we're not Indian, we're not Chinese, we're not Bufiando, we're not Douglas, we're Guyanese. And that is what national service was intended to do. You see, I've seen it at national service. You bring people from different environments. When they sit down, they play, they eat little hard rice together, they play cricket, football, they learn skills. They recognize that we are really one. That is what, and the money is available now. The centers are there at Kimbia. Reopen them. We have all those places in the rivers. Reopen them. We hear from the international community that the coast can soon be inundated because of climate change.
Yeah.
Take the people upriver, out away from the coast. Because Georgetown was a bad decision by the colonial masters in the first place.
Yes.
Just last week,
Go to higher ground.
Yeah, just last week, someone was telling me that, chances are Georgetown may not be the capital city for.
I can't talk to
That's
right.
going to change.
Right.
But I'm saying, well,
But Christine, if you read my book, and I make a copy available to you, Georgetown, I wrote a book. You'll see that identification of Georgetown as the capital had nothing to do with good sense, had nothing to do with engineering experiences. It had to do with the struggle among the European powers. The Dutch knew what they were doing when they identified the capital of what was later Demerara and Guyana at a place called Borselen Island, just off of where Soesdijk and Termeri is. It's high ground, but what happened when the Dutch occupied it, the French, the Spanish, and the British come in from the Atlantic. And by the time the Dutch realized it, the enemy was upon them. So they built what is known as a brandwack at a point just off where St. Andrew's Church is today. It is a dirty place, swampy, and it was used as a place to punish the soldiers when they misbehave. So they put 2 guns to spot the ships when they were coming in. And after time, that's how the capital, that's a long story, became the capital. And in fact, people don't know, that's how Water Street got its name. It was always on the water.
So I guess you can't complain now we have a lot of rain, and that's one of the first areas, that downtown area there, Avenue of the Republic, there's always water there. Once you've had a shower of rain, it could have been always just a little bit, you're going to know, because there's always, I guess, that's going to be a different.
But you know, some gentlemen have come to see me at 3 o'clock this afternoon. They're writers, for me to give them a first-hand idea of Ghana's history.
Okay.
Because it is not written, I lived through the period, and I know what, I studied the reports on Georgetown. And when you see that seawall, if it ever collapses, we don't have a city.
All right. Remember, viewers, that the number that you can reach on today would be 225-0008. Yes, you can call 225-0008 in order to have your say on today's program. The number is 225-0008. That's what you can call us on today. And you know, Mr. Green, we often talk about the availability of resources in Guyana. But when we look at the cost of living, it's like a slap in the face of the people. Because when you walk through the market and you see the prices of basic things, like for example, our vegetables and our greens in the market, the price is ridiculous.
Well,
What is your suggestion on that?
there are 2 things. We are not producing enough, and we have built some farm-to-market roads, but we have to encourage our farmers with more incentives and restart the agri-bank, which Burnham started, but we didn't have the big capital to sustain it. And in some circumstances, we have to take the bull by the horns and say, look, we stop importing pawpaws and then give the farmers an incentive and tell them to control the prices. That's what we have to do.
Hello? Hello? Yes, go ahead, please. Hello? Yeah.
You're on the Voice of the People?
Yes. When Mr. Green trying to get others along with him, I just sit down and speak or what? That's my question.
Oh, thank you. Your question is wrong one.
All right. I don't think I caught the entirety of the caller's question, so I'm sorry about that.
Colony, hello? Hello?
So, Sharma,
Yes. Hello?
you got the market full, very expensive to food stuff.
Yes.
Your volume is falling.
Because every Saturday I'm hearing Miss Hampton.
Yes.
You cannot sit down, brother man. I'm telling you this. Bring the people out and let's go on the road and protest.
Call him, let's go. Go, what's this? Yeah.
Get the opposition leaders to well and get good response people here. Get the people to come out.
Okay.
You can't sit down and get help.
Okay.
Get up and get help.
Okay.
That'll waste time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
The essence of free speech, the guardian of democracy, is that we all should allow our say.
Yeah.
As far as I know, one of the reasons why I come to this program, you have never, as far as I know, restricted, except people are libelous, calls on this station.
Yeah.
So people, if they disagree with Sharma, or Green, or Christine, they are free to say, I disagree with you.
Yeah. That's right.
These are my views, and let us discuss it as civilized members of a society. No man is perfect.
That's right.
Even our memories are imperfect. And when some of us share our experiences, it is merely to open the opportunity for dialogue, discussion, and hopefully decision making. That is what a civilized society is all about.
Yeah. To go back to one of the callers, I think we didn't get to touch on it last week. One of the callers did bring up the matter that you mentioned not too long ago, Mr. Green, about the agri-bank. So why isn't that being done, to foster? Because I think that is one of the things. We're not producing as much as we used to. Because certain items, why they're so expensive in the market? Because there's a scarcity of them. And many persons will say that, farmers, they need to have access to these, an agriculture bank that can facilitate their needs. So why isn't that happening in our time? Any suggestions?
Well, as I said, the agri-bank was specifically established to help push the agricultural sector. Loans were very, very easy to come by, provided you had the land, the collateral, and the experience. And it was intended to remove the farmers from the tedium of bureaucracy which characterized application to a regular commercial bank.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead, Andy. You're on here. Yes.
I want to make 2 points.
Yes.
One,
Yes.
people complaining about how things are expensive.
Like what?
The greens or
Okay.
offering.
Yes.
People no want plant. So they no want buy food.
Yeah.
Things are expensive.
Okay.
But the ticket for the
What?
EPL
Yeah.
don't sell out.
Yeah.
That's just for $20,000. We that don't sell out.
Okay.
Right? And the Jam Jones and the Connie,
Okay.
40,000 and you got the next super show.
Okay.
You can pay 40,000 for going.
Thank you very much.
And ask them for work, they can't work.
Okay. Thank you. Next caller.
All right.
Yeah.
Everyone will have their own perspectives about why one is so and, what priorities citizens are making. But I think the average man or woman who's probably got young children or children in a household, they are finding it difficult. And I don't think it have anything to do with how they're spending their resources in a frivolous fashion. Because quite often I think the matter that the caller there was raising, about persons who do a lot of sporting. I don't think those are, I think they have the class of people who do that. But I think they're good citizens and parents, they operate on a different level.
Mind you, from our own knowledge, there are a lot of households and parents who don't spend their money wisely. And it has to do with their cultural response to the situation. You have some parents, instead of buying books and shoes for children, with the same cash balance they got, go and buy all sorts of design clothing to look good. And I know of persons who secure loans from banks.
Okay.
And the next thing you know, they have a lavish wedding,
Okay.
big christening.
Okay.
And if somebody dies, the funeral is a big trala. Years ago, you go in the Repentance Cemetery, and you see many of our people, you know, bottles of liquor, waste of money. So that part of the process, and that is what National Service would have done, is to teach them to spend their money wisely and identify their priorities.
There you go. Sometimes it's just a matter of priority. Now, another matter of the color is that many persons, they don't want to plant. Now, in the city, it's becoming more and more rare because I think persons are really enjoying this thing about concreting their entire yards and things like that. So there is no place for planting. But you really could reap the benefits or really see the savings if you have a few fruit trees in your yard or you plant a few things in your yard. There is much savings to be had. So for those who explore that, they will know the savings that they get. But, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Mr. Gray would have often told us that, you know.
The weather's been rough. My wife spends most of her time in the mornings and nights,
Watering.
but she has not been to reap our traditional sweet peppers and okras and so. Things are picking up now because we haven't had rain for a couple of weeks now.
Okay.
So I guess we can have a few little tough situations here and there, whether it be the weather not being as kind to the planters as it could be. But what are we going to do? At the end of the day, it's not as bad as it could be. Because when we look elsewhere, you know, there's a lot worse happening in our world today.
But we need to go back to the days, and the matter I raised with some of the councils on Sunday, to encouraging communities in the urban centers and rural centers to use more of their land to plant fruit trees, vegetables, and ground provision.
Okay.
So that some people complain that people steal, but they can't steal everything.
Okay.
And if you have a good neighborhood, you'll know when a stranger is there, and they'll protect you.
You know, there is another incident. I think last week we touched on this increase in crime.
Correct.
I think there was a brutal incident that happened during this week here, where a young woman lost her life and.
Accident?
No, I think it was a case where the contractor who was there in her home ended up killing her. You know, Mr. Sharma.
Paprika.
Yes. Mentioned that incident, and that is so sad. And
well, I haven't read the police report, but it seems as though this contractor got annoyed because the house owner spoke to him about the way her money was being spent. And he bashed her as a 29-year-old woman. I mean, things horrible. We become brutes. We no longer civilized people.
So when you look at things like this, and the other incidents of crime that are taking place, you wonder
every day.
It's a daily thing. So what is really happening to our society? Quite recently I heard someone was talking about it, that we really need to go back to establishing morals in our society. You need a more morally grounded society. So sometimes that's the only answer when it comes to these situations. Because if you've got, and I think the sanctity for human life is being minimized or trivialized now. Persons don't even respect their own life to respect their neighbors' lives. So sometimes when you just look at how some persons drive on the roadway, you know that they don't regard their own lives, and that's a tragedy in itself.
Over the past few weeks, I've run into families where the teenager children have never been to a masjid, a temple, nor a church, nor a place of worship. So they lack that spiritual input. The churches may not be the best place, but it's far better than nothing. At least they give children some guidance as to what is right and what is wrong. And in our society today, we have a situation where people don't know the difference between right and wrong. And those people rise to the top sometimes. That is why at a meeting I had on Sunday with some people, I quoted what is known as the Peters Principle, where people are promoted to a level above their competence. And that's happening in this country from top to bottom. So we have people made ministers who don't have the capacity to be ministers. People being promoted in various sectors of industry and business, they don't have the experience.
Okay.
And that is the problem we have, Peter's Principle.
Okay.
A man may be a good corporal, but you make him an inspector, and it becomes a disaster.
Yeah, disaster. Colony, Ella, go ahead.
All right. Remember, our number to reach us on today would be 225-0008. Today's number is 225-0008. Well, I think that's one of the things that we have touched on, quite often throughout the program. About these square pegs being put in round holes, and well, it's just becoming quite disastrous because we're seeing it happening in so many instances where you see the competency is not there. And many callers, call in and, share their experiences, how the lack of knowledge and the lack of experience in certain sectors, how it's so evident. So, there we go.
But I've been pleading with young people, particularly those who have joined the ambitious group to become parliamentarians, members of city councils, district councils, and so forth, that they can serve themselves and their communities well if they read some more. I find many of our people, particularly those under 60, 50, don't read enough. And therefore they are, they don't understand the history of the world. They don't understand history of the world, And if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you are, and as is happening, you can be misguided by other people. And that is happening in so many places.
Mr.
People don't read.
You're saying about what happened to those who eyesight may But remember, this is the technology age when you have something called audio books. So if you can literally read it, you actually have it where you can have books read to you. So there's no excuse really not for grasping your knowledge in this, So once you want to find the knowledge, it's there for the taking. Once you want to pursue it.
Okay.
But reading is so important because this artificial intelligence, I admit I don't understand it. But Christine, your generation will understand it better than me. And CN. I don't understand. The thing is so frightening.
What do you mean by that?
This artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I mean, it appears as though in some situations, you don't need machines anymore.
Okay.
These things can tell you what to do with some degree of accuracy. They have admitted from the reports I've listened to on the international media that AI can be a good thing, but it can be a dangerous thing. But I don't understand it enough to speak about it. I confess I don't understand it.
Well, I think one of the greatest dangers with what we call AI or new technology is that it's reducing persons' need to think. Nowadays, human beings don't need to think much anymore, and that's a dangerous thing because you have things to tell you everything. So you don't have to think, you don't have to remember anything. So the smart world is really dumbing mankind down, and that's not good because when technology becomes smarter than you, what will happen there? So I think that's one of the great tragedies.
If these machines tell us we don't have to think, it means that some mechanical system is thinking for us. And the big question is, If that thought is a wicked thought or an unfair idea, what happens to us and the rest of the world?
Well, there you go.
And that's what I don't understand. And that's why I like people of your age group to tell me.
Well, that is the frightening thing indeed, because they have these machines who can take over the thought process. Now, there lies the thing of mankind becoming extinct. But let's hope that, at the end of the day, I think it's usually people behind the thing. I don't think we're going to create monsters to destroy ourselves, but, well, they do have wicked people in the world, and we've seen it in ages gone by. So.
Well, in the 60s, when the Soviet Union and the Americans had the atomic bomb, well, not the atomic bomb, so nuclear weapons, they felt that if it was used, they can destroy the whole world. And that is why we must give credit to the two Ks, Khrushchev and Kennedy, who met and avoided what we know now as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Because I read a journal written by the Russian general. He said that his finger was literally and metaphorically on the trigger to let go of these nuclear weapons across part of what we know to Europe and the United States. We have no doubt that the Americans also had the same capacity. He said it was a matter not of days or hours or minutes, but seconds. He was waiting for instructions. And then Khrushchev and Kennedy, I think, recognizing the enormity of the challenge or the destruction that will take place, decided that the Russians should remove the missiles from Cuba. But what they don't tell you, and that's why propaganda is a powerful thing, that the Americans had to remove the missiles they had in Turkey.
Okay.
But you don't tell that part of the story. And propaganda is always myopic, one-sided.
That is the thing, because
I visited Cuba
getting something in return.
and saw the site where there are all these massive concrete structures in place, all pointing south to the United States. And as you know, the American spy planes picked it up. And Kennedy demanded Khrushchev remove them, and they did. And the Americans also had to remove their missiles from Turkey. But today, we have much more powerful weapons. We have these drones that are all over the place. And I'm hoping that good sense will prevail. And powers that be will understand that we use that technology to improve agriculture. We can end starvation in the entire world. And every citizen in this world will be happy and comfortable. That's what they use technology for. But the fellows are building more sophisticated guns, more sophisticated missiles. And I believe it is fair to say that as science be put into the industry of making weapons is much more advanced. The science being put in to improving health care and agriculture. And that is man's curse.
There you go. It's a quest for power and control rather than for really units. Because what you're saying is absolutely true. Because the amount of resources that is going into for mankind to destroy each other, basically, looking to mankind to feed each other, and but it's a matter of greed and control and power, and that's a sad thing. That's a very, very sad thing. But it's what has been happening for ages, and I'm not sure when it's going to change.
Well, let us hope that something will happen to tell the powers in the Kremlin, in Washington, in China, in India, that let us stop this nonsense and work for a peaceful and a better world.
Well, maybe all these natural disasters that is hitting our world, with much more ferocity and much more power, now will be a little bit of a wake-up call, because those are things, no matter what resources you have, when they just strike, you really can't do about it other than pick up pieces. So maybe that'll be something to shake up our world powers again. And I just hope we here in Ghana probably pick up our own pieces and bring ourselves together before we have some natural disasters hitting us. I think we have a call on the line.
Hello, hello. Hello? Yes? Yes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to already know what is the your and purpose in this country. What is the necessary lynch and purpose in this country? Is she here to whitewash Guyana or promote the GBL?
I don't answer what you say. You can go over what you say.
Thank you.
What's she saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the caller wanted to know the purpose of Cyril Lynch, who, what's her purpose in the country, the U.S. ambassador, or she wanted to know.
What's her purpose?
What is it she did? What is it she did for us, with us?
In her farewell address, she said that she's prepared to be go-between to ensure that there's dialogue between the leader of the opposition and the leader of the country. She said that in a prepared statement and outside of the Arthur Chung Convention Center. When asked to comment on that, President Ali said, in his own words, I'm not using his exact words, that that's not anybody's business, that's his business, and he will decide when to talk to the opposition. His words amongst us are that rejection.
How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that?
It's stated, it's in the media.
Okay.
He said so after he left the Tashau conference at Arthur Chung Convention Center. Hours after, the departing U.S. envoy made the offer to facilitate dialogue.
Okay.
Well, I think the caller was also somewhat concerned whether the
Hello.
ambassador is
Hello?
our interest
Hello?
part, or whether she's more
Hello?
of the United, issues that she had more at heart. So,
Well, I think every Guyanese, every Guyanese at home and abroad is aware that from the time of the beginning of the 20th century and even before, and the time America developed military might, that America's influence and interest in the Caribbean and Guyana was always significant and ought not to be ignored. That's a fact of life. Beyond that, remember that at the end of the First and Second World War, the majority of Guyanese and West Indians moved to England. But that changed rapidly in the 40s and the 50s. And today, I believe that there are more Guyanese in the United States with families than you have in Guyana today. That is because the pull to the US has been stronger than the pull to the Caribbean, to Europe, and to the United Kingdom. So that the caller's question is simply answered. The Americans have always had an interest in Guyana and in this part of the world, particularly since Ghana is the only English-speaking country in South America. But Americans had an interest in all the other countries in South America. Why do you think they have the same with Venezuela?
Okay.
Because Maduro, following upon Chavez, has sort of taken up what we consider anti-American position.
Okay.
But now that there's a crisis in Ukraine with oil, the Americans are now talking to the Venezuelans.
Okay.
Because apart from Ghana, Venezuela has a massive amount of oil.
Okay.
So, in other words, these big nations always consider smaller countries in terms of their own best interests. The United States, England, Europe, Soviet Union, China is a big deal now, and India. And all those countries show interest in countries, particularly now that we have oil.
Okay.
And Guyanese leaders must be astute enough to recognize that and to use their good sense
Okay.
to know how to use diplomacy in the interest of the people. So when Ali rebuffs the American ambassador, he shows bravado, he shows that he thinks he's a big one, he doesn't understand the world in which we live. And that's unfortunate, because our president ought to have the sagacity, the wisdom to recognize, as the boys say, you don't mess with the Americans.
Okay.
Well, there, I think the caller should have had a fair answer there. But that's just how it is. The bigger countries always have an interest in what you can do for them or how best you can serve them, and that's not going to change, basically.
Particularly when you have natural resources.
Okay.
Look, in Gabon and Niger now, there are coups, and you notice the guarded language by the superpowers. Some of the things regretted, but at the end of the day, if those generals can deliver the uranium to the West, they don't have a difficulty with the coup.
I thought even the finance matter. We're not getting money.
Well, see, and this whole thing ends up with money.
Oh.
If whether India, China, Russia, or United States feel that Ghana can deliver more money to them,
Okay.
they'll come to our corner, you know. And this is not ideology anymore. Ideology went through the window in 1985 when Gorbachev dismantled the Soviet Union. And that's why when he died, nobody even attended his funeral.
Okay. Colony, hello. Okay.
All right, well, we want to encourage those. Remember, everyone is invited to share their views on this program. We always like to say all members of the public are invited to participate. And the way that you can do that is by calling the number 225-0008. And I think we have a call on the line.
Colony, hello. Yes. Hello. Yes. Yes.
Tell me to take it radio off.
I think we can't hear
Take it radio, take it radio, take it radio.
We're having a lot of feedback here, so we can't hear you clearly.
Take off your TV because there's a feedback. We like to hear you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, you can't be
But
careful.
but remember when you're coming through, you need to ensure that, that your volume is down.
When you call, take off
Your
your TV so there's no feedback. Because if there's feedback, those of us in the studio will have difficulty understanding you, and people could not respond to you in a proper manner. We like to respond to all questions raised.
All right, yes, as I was saying, remember that.
So the person who got cut off can call back, take off your TV, and we'll try to field and answer your questions.
And number to reach us on would be 225-0008. Remember, 225-0008 would be the number to reach us on today. Yeah, and Mr. Sharma, I know you're always concerned about what you call the poorer class.
Poorer class.
How are we going to get more money to the Guyanese citizens? I think that's the question that you really want us to discuss today. Just
Wait, how we get more money?
Money is the currency of exchange.
Yes.
The first thing is, if prices are good and you raise salaries and give out these cash grants as the government seem to feel as the panacea.
Yeah. Hello. No one is available to take your call.
Hello?
It's a revolving cycle.
Okay.
And you will reach the point of some form of inflation. And we said on this program, I think, 2 weeks ago, I don't understand, and I haven't had a response from people, and the government people listen to this program. Let them call and answer how it is. All this oil being produced, all this gold being harvested,
Yes.
why it is in September 2023, the cost of living is going up. And
Hello? Hello? Yes, go ahead, please. Hello? Okay.
Why are all the Chinese people migrating to North America? What is your answer to the numerous deficit?
Thank you very much.
what's the question?
You can answer.
I think it's, I think I'm part of saying something with all the guys.
My friend,
North America.
if you call and speak slowly, neither of us understood you properly. So call again, we want to talk to you, but it's either your phone or our phone is faulty.
No.
Neither Christine or Sienna or myself
I can't hear you.
understood what you're saying. But we'd like to answer, so call again, speak slowly, and speak into the microphone of your telephone.
Got it.
But what I was saying, Sienna, when he called,
Yes.
what I don't understand as a simple layman
Hello?
is what it is.
Yes. Good afternoon. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And concerning some issues that I can still bring back one to sidestep the other day. Motorbike to the young chap.
Oh, okay.
You know, so one of the matches from the time I spoke to you was
Yes.
7 or 8 people died.
Yes, I know that.
And 7 of them were here in Elvis.
Yeah.
Now, and the thing is that like some little funny.
Right.
Even one of them is black. So in one of his schools.
Okay.
In Young. In Georgetown.
Yeah.
All these guys are African-looking people.
Caller, I must stop you a little bit there. Maybe all of those that you have seen, but I can assure you that it's not only black people who ride those big noisy motorcycles, because in my neighborhood, I do lessons every now and then. I can assure you, not only one ethnic group.
I am up here around Central Georgetown. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about Indian and black.
Okay.
What I'm trying to get at is this: there are many incidents that see for president and the opposition leader
Yes.
get together. I put them in a room. I say instead of 8 or 2 weeks, you need a longer time than that. What I'm saying is, PhD, right? A little girl in there. What I'm saying, it can't happen like that because they got people on the president's side, but everyone to have also on the opposition side. This is where we gone to now. The first thing they got to talk about, they got to see if we can get all the unions, the head of all the religious.
How can I find them? How can I find them?
The Catholic and the Anglican
I
Church,
can't find them. How can I find them?
and all the different heads, a union, people who in charge of business, all the heads of the business organization, before and decide to go and to the president and he take directly.
Okay.
Okay. I put on fire for them outside.
Okay.
Or to victory.
All right.
Those people, that is what we could do. It can't happen no way like that.
Okay.
Mr. Green, you know that.
Okay.
This social being got a kind of level of intellectual but spiritual intelligence yet reach the level there.
Yeah.
They come to the self of what
Okay.
country, we social background situation with history. It is a terrible something in especially because no, I mean back out to this thing.
Yeah.
You know what it'll give me up. You know how long them all they give me up.
Yeah.
This is the colonial gold, you know.
Done.
All the time.
Yeah, done.
Trees going out. Right? The diamonds going out. Oil going out. It's not a poor person there. There are Chinese who would never want this big deposition to sit them together. With all respect the president. Therefore, close people to President God would never want the mark saying, you know, something. And you know, we should lose out. You know, we'll have to this culture. The only way it could happen, the same leaders and politicians and head organizations, they got to come together. They got to hold a meeting up themselves. And so this meeting is to ask the president and the opposition leader to come together. That's what me and you and Mr. Sharper got to see if we could get.
How we can get it?
These guys,
How we can get it?
every pipeline. The people, the academic people, the head of UG, whoever the head of UG is called them, head academic.
All right, sorry, we lost that call, but Mr. Green.
The big question which we raised earlier is how do you persuade?
Yeah.
And I use the word persuade advisedly. Our head of state, commander-in-chief, to take that step of glory and good sense, to take the initiative to invite the opposition to talk.
Okay.
He is commander-in-chief.
Well, the colors of
He has to show statesmanship and not be like a fox. When the U.S. ambassador made the offer, it was to give him an opening. And these fellows understand the language of these diplomats, you know.
Okay.
Sarah Ann Lynch is not an ordinary diplomat.
Okay.
I talked to her at some small function.
Yeah.
She's very experienced.
Okay.
And she speaks with the voice of the powers that be.
Voiceless.
You notice that even when the government changed from Republican to Democrat, she still remained here. That tells a story. So when she makes an offer that is rejected by our head of state, it's a moment of sadness, and I hope that those who can exercise some influence within the PPP establishment will find some way to reverse this attitude that is existing, and let the president behave like a statesman and not a fox. In the interests of this country, and to say to him, he cannot govern a country when he ignores the voices of those who, in the democratic process, speak for over 40% of the population.
Wonderful.
The trouble is, he has within his grouping some who are so arrogant, so self-opinionated, that they feel they go back to the days of the 50s, when you win an election, and go around the country say, are we on top? What happened then can happen again. And may I say this truism, the higher you climb. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's one of the points of the last one was just making is that as much as you want to invite both sides or government and or opposition to come down and sit down, but he's saying that many of them would not really be interested in having that sort of dialogue. And so therefore we say maybe the onus is on the religious communities and the business communities and the different unions to come together now and put some pressure on them to have this sort of conversation. But well, if that begs the question, how will we get them to respond to such an invitation?
But members of the PP, and there are intelligent members at several levels, must break this. They must not be as this chap who wrote this book.
Who's that?
Agrigli.
No.
Agrigli, a Ghanaian scholar, who said we must not be guilty of the sin of silence. So I make an open call to all of these business people, supporters of the PPP, who ought to know better. Speak to your boss. Knock some sense into his head in the interest of this country.
Well, I think that's a very good note for us, for us to wrap up today's program on that, those who should know better really should do better and try to influence better. And with that in mind, I like to implore our parents, know what your children are doing, pay attention to them now that they're in school and not quite under your care. Pay a little bit more attention to them because it could be a dangerous world out there, especially in this technology world. Pay attention to those devices that they have in their hands. I think that's becoming more and more dangerous for our young people coming up. So our road users and our pedestrians, our drivers, exercise a little bit more care, have a little bit more value for human life, and just be careful on the road. Mr. Green, your final comment.
Well, school opened this week, and I appeal to mothers, fathers, aunties, caregivers to be responsible. To treat education as an important tool in the armory for the child's development. Spend some more time with your children, making sure they do their homework. And more than that, get them engaged in extracurricular activity. No child, and I have a concern with these children getting 17, 18, 19 subjects. You get 19 subjects, you don't play cricket, you don't play basketball, you don't play a musical instrument. You're a brute. You're not a civilized member of society. Get them involved in sporting activity, cultural activity, so you produce rounded men and women who can take their proper place in a society with all this oil and blessed with no natural disasters. And I repeat what I said earlier. We are blessed. If you don't make use of it, we'll be cursed.
Thank you very much.
All right, so our operator, thank you for keeping us online. To all of our viewers and our participants who have called in, thank you for joining us on the CNN Channel 6. As we often say, God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day.